Good morning, Catherine and Jane. And I suppose I can't disagree with anything that's been said. I mean, and a lot of these issues we've heard before here in the committee, but I think the more we air them and discuss them and tease them out, the better as well, to keep continually raising them and creating awareness and whatever. I mean, I don't think enough is done to recognise the billions that carers, especially family carers, but also home care assistants, save the state every year, and they don't get the proper recognition, but they don't get the proper pay and conditions either grouping, and that has to change. And look, there's a huge shortage of home care workers now, or home care assistants, and until the government changes the procedures of how they're paid and how they can work, and as you talk about career progression and so on, it is not going to change. Catherine, you mentioned there that the income from a family carer was less than 20,000 per year. Are you including the cost of disability when you talk about that figure? I suppose because the Indicon cost of disability recognised that the average cost was for a family with a disabled member was anything from 8,000 to 12,000. I mean, I don't. A man on to me the other day, and he said it's 20,000 for them per year to cater for and look after their adult daughter, because she has complex intellectual disabilities. And I know another study that was done and presented at the Autism Committee said 28,000. They reckon, when they take everything into account, maybe that's because you can't work outside the home and the carer's allowance, if you even qualify, is so low. And, you know, then paying for services, taking everything into account, it was 28,000 per autistic child. So maybe just to expand on that. Also, the Assisted Decision Making Act obviously is welcome, and we're waiting since 2015 for full commencement, and it seems to be imminent. And I suppose it's good to recognise that everybody has capacity until it's seen to be otherwise. Because I mean, again, somebody who presented at a committee, again, I think it was the Autism Committee, was saying oftentimes when a person's non-verbal, you know, maybe an autistic person, they often have assumed they've no intelligence, which is just dreadful, isn't it? You know, like this, which could be nothing further from the truth. So I'm just saying, have enough supports been given to family carers to become the decision support person, you know, if the person lacks the capacity as well, both, I suppose, financial and other as well.
Okay, thanks, Pauline. And that 20,000 figure was purely the income coming into the family, so it wasn't taken into account because it was a question that was asked in our state of caring. So it means that that family, it's probably why further down people said 23% were struggling and had cut back on essentials. And I know we did our own cost of care survey last year as well, and we found that the cost of caring in a home is in around €145 per week, just the cost of care alone, not taking into account other costs. So you can see how nobody could live on €237 per week, which is the carers allowance at the moment. And when we talk about carers allowance reform required, we want the means test abolished, but it also needs to be a fair payment as well. 237 does not cut it in terms of the costs. In terms of the assisted capacity bill, and Jane mentioned it, and while we welcome it, and like yourself have been waiting for it to be commenced, there are areas that do challenge and concern family carers, and your question, has enough been done to support family carers? I would say no, and particularly our issue is around, we know there are about 18,000 family carers like Jane who are caring for somebody with a profound, severe disability. And who we know will have to go through the courts to become a decision-making representative for their loved one as soon as the Act commences. Now, given that our court system and services are already under pressure, we have asked, continuously asked, for a transition period of something like 3 years, which would allow carers to transition and become decision-making representatives so that they wouldn't clog our courts as soon as the Act commences. We feel it's a reasonable ask, given that they've done something similar for the wards of court. They've given a 3-year timeline, and it would mean carers like Jane wouldn't be left in limbo until such time as they became that decision-making representative through the courts. We've asked for that. We've asked to meet Minister O'Gorman to discuss that. We haven't got that meeting, so I would ask if the committee could put that forward, seeking a meeting with Minister O'Gorman around that issue. there are other principles within the Act that do cause us some concern. One is around a person's right to make unwise decisions. And this does raise concern with family carers. And if I can give you an example, we have one family carer who told us that her son, who has an intellectual disability and is living with Down syndrome, as soon as he gets his money, his disability allowance, he would quite happily go into McDonald's and buy one of everything on the menu and eat it all. And he would be very happy to do that. Now, she said he has done it on occasion and has been extremely ill. So that's an unwise decision. But the consequences of that unwise decision do fall back on the family carer, because he's sick for days, she's the one that's helping him, getting him through that, but he's also spent all his money, so he's no money for anything else and no money to put towards the house bills as well. So there are issues in there that cause family carers some concerns. I think they can be overcome, but I think it is about supporting family carers and informing them. And in that survey we did last year, 68% of carers said they did not know about the assisted capacity bill. So they did not know what it meant for them. Now, that is despite the very good work that is happening with the Decision Support Services Office. I know they have been out there, they have been talking about it, but carers are still not aware. So Family Carers Ireland, we are running a number of information sessions called Listening to Carers over February and March, where we will talk through the Capacity Act and the very positive things it will bring to bear, but also hopefully support carers through those challenges. If they have to go to court, we will support them in doing that to become a decision-making representative. But there are areas of concern there, and I believe they can be overcome if we could get to meet the Minister and if we could talk through, and hopefully he could put our mind at ease around some of these concerns that we have.